Hi, I'm Anthony Ramirez. I'm the managing producer here at the Undermain Theater. I'd like to welcome you to this Talkback. Thank you for being here on this Sunday afternoon with us. Just a couple of things. We actually licensed this play, Bruce DeBose, in 2019. This play has been on the menu for a while, and then something happened in 2019, and I can't remember what that was, but like a lot of things, it got moved back. But I know that Bruce has been very anxious to do this show, and we had the opportunity come up, and we saw, and we had people in mind after the past couple of years. You saw them on stage today, and it happened when it needed to happen. This right here next to me, this young man is Silas Choi. He was the fencing instructor for our actors in today's production. Some of you were here earlier for the donor event and know all about him. Sitting next to him is Steve Woods. Steve is the lighting designer for this show and a long time associated company member here with the Undermain. While we're waiting for our actors, I guess first, Steve, we had, and as I know Paul probably told you that we have the Brightest Gift Fund going on. You actually got to see and are seeing some of the new LED lights that we have. Steve, could you give us just a short something on how these are so much better and how they are going to make things better for us here?
Well, I think you all know. Go into Home Depot or go into Lowe's and try to find an incandescent bulb or a tungsten bulb. They're just not available. So, for example, this light is a nice tungsten vintage 1984. Still works, it's just metal and piece of glass. Can't get a light bulb for it anymore. So it's junk to us. This light is the brand new LED light. What we're expecting out of it, tungsten lamp, about 200 hours before it burns out. The tungsten lamp's about $30. The LED fixture, hard to believe, 30,000 hours of lamp life. So it makes a huge difference for us.
Awesome. Here's our cast right here. Lily Gast, Nadia DeWolf, and Christina Cranshaw. I'm going to ask right now for some of you, Silas. Earlier we asked you to tell us a little bit about yourself. If you could do that again for some of the people who weren't here earlier.
Hello, I'm 17 years old. I go to Cistercian as a senior, and I've been fencing for about 7 years.
He's also, tell us a little about your fencing right now.
Right now, I've been doing a few, I'm planning to do some junior World Cups. I recently got recruited to Princeton for fencing. And this October, I'm going to Tunisia for another World Cup.
We were very lucky, very fortunate to have Silas instruct our actors, and I'm sure they'll tell you that he is a wonderful instructor. Some of you who saw the demonstration earlier, the ease that he teaches people is great, and we're just so proud and happy to have him with us. So, I guess let's open it up to some questions. Any questions you have about the production? Any questions at all? Please.
Silas, is the screaming realistic in?
Yes, actually, it's not that far off. It's actually more on the girl side. They actually scream like a lot harder than the guy sides. But yes, the screaming, yeah, even I scream sometimes.
I'd like to ask the actresses how physically fit they were before.
I guess you guys can take each of those individually and answer how that went.
Before you got into this, because I mean, wow.
Well, I mean, I've never fenced, but I took a lot of stage combat in college, and And so I think I had some ease with that, like not feeling completely frightened about it. But physically fit, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm physically fit.
Yeah, I became an actor because I'm not an athlete. But yeah, the water, it's real. The need for the water and all the deep breaths and everything, it's real because we've been training for this summer, but before that, like my mile time's probably like 20 minutes. I can go 1 mile, you know? Like,
That's impressive. I don't know about y'all, but I was very physically fit. I think what I did was I came into this going, oh, what a polite sport. They're up there, waggling their swords around, and then the first day of training with Silas, after we came back the second day, Nadia and I were both like this.
They were.
Silas was like, "You're still sore?" So what a rude awakening about those tiny little adductors. They were real.
yeah.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
More questions? Did you guys, other than obviously the physical thing, let me ask this, what were the biggest challenges for this show for each of you, other than the physical and the technical of having to learn fencing?
I will say the script itself has a lot of non sequiturs in it, and a lot of teenage speak, and I don't speak that way, and so it was very difficult for me to memorize all the cools. Yeah, like really. So getting those straight in my head was very difficult, and then also matching it with the movement was very hard.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me and it still is the pacing of the show, because it gets going so fast, and then it will like kind of halt, and it'll be really calm, and then it like picks back up, and so you really have to be aware of, because you can't tire yourself out like early on, and then you're like, oh man, I gotta do that at the end, oh man, like, so it's such a fast-paced, rigorous show, and that has been really challenging but really rewarding too.
Well, most of my stuff is physical in the show, so I know it's against the question, but I mean, the challenge was, I guess, not staying warmed up, but like I sit in the back and I'll play like solitaire, and then like I'll be like, oh, I'll hear like her at the dentist, and I'll be like, oh, I should probably like stretch again because it's been like almost an hour since I stretched. But I don't think, it's not like, oh, it's a challenge to do all that. That's my story.
For some of you who are unfamiliar with the way certain things work in theater, because there is so much physicality, because there is so much fighting in it, we have before the show a fight call, which is basic, and Christina is the fight captain. They go through.
We do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Fight calls, you don't normally do it all in a fight call. You're like, we'll just do the really tricky stuff. We do it all. We do all the fencing in the show, and then we say, okay, you ready to do it again?
So in some ways, it's like doing 2 shows in one. And having, yes, ma'am.
I was curious to know what Athena's name is. Also, what you decided about her backstory.
Oh, am I allowed? I can't. I don't think I'm allowed.
It's up to you. Whatever you want.
I think it's supposed to be a secret forever, but I'll come find you and I'll tell you. I think her backstory, there's not a ton about, I mean, you see it. Like, all that we really know is, like, distant dad. I think the way we decided to go was, like, she's like a latchkey kid, you know, like she's very much alone, she's very much rageful, and there's no outlet for that. Like, I think the scene that really gets me is the one where she's like yelling at her dad, right? It's like all this rage, and then it's like, oh, I can't even decide what dinner is though. Like, I still have to depend on you to like make me dinner and like do whatever, because I'm a child. Like, and I remember feeling like that when I was 17, just being like, I'm so much smarter than everyone around me. Like, why can't I make the decisions? And so I think, not having any strong relationships, and then the relationship with Mary Wallace is the first one where she might actually have a peer, like might actually have someone that respects her, that she in turn respects also. And I think her journey is about learning how to actually be on the same level as someone rather than like looking down at them or feeling like you need to be looked up to, like rather like a level playing field. And I'll find you and I'll tell you.
But you have to come every night.
Yeah, you have to come back here every day.
So maybe Silas could indicate for us, is nationals going to make the difference for Athena to get a college notice versus Mary Wallace? Like, is nationals in that case really the turning point?
There's a lot. Nationals, I would say, in the real fencing season, it's just one of many big. There's this thing called NACs, North American Cups. Nationals is one of them, but they're all equally weighted the same. I'd say like there's about like 7 NACs in the season, so. No, I don't think that.
It's a make or break.
No.
But maybe that is the story of Gracie Gardner telling us.
Also,
In
too,
our case.
there is things that are built in. You know, it's not real; it's a play, and there's always things that are built in for dramatic sense. So there's that. But that's a great question, though. I hadn't thought about
Curious
that.
of how important it was.
You could probably say that's pretty important for Athena, though, because it would appear that she doesn't have a lot of money, extra money to spend on traveling
It's gonna be
to
good.
out of
Well,
state.
also when you're 17, it's all important. Like it's all the end of the world. Like I had so many like speech and debate competitions or like one act play festival, and I was like, if I don't win, like I'd be like, I'm quitting careers, I'm never doing it again. And like it's fine. Like it's always fine, and you live to see another day. But when you're 17, like you can't see past it. It's all so major. It's all the time. It's all encompassing. You know, up in there.
Decided
I
change.
found it really delightful because it is modern and not woke. And I really appreciate it.
More questions?
I have a question. How difficult did you find it to be just mostly 2 characters the whole play as opposed to having a whole cast? How much more taxing is that on you just to be the main thread?
Have you guys ever been in a 2-person show and had the load like that, where it's?
I have not. No, this was my first 2-person show ever. I'm very fortunate. Christina and I have worked together in the past, so I had a little, okay, oh god, okay, great. And so that was good. It's a lot. Like it's hard to monitor my face for that long.
Yeah.
Like I'm like I can't blink weird because I'm here. Like I'm really like it's the whole time. And so it was definitely a challenge. I'm so grateful to have gotten to do it. I'm so grateful to have gotten to do it with these 2 lovely ladies, because I probably would have panicked a lot more had it not been with great people and with a great team. And great, our stage managers also were like, you're gonna run that scene 5 times until you know it. And we're like, okay. So it was great. Everyone really made it a super wonderful process.
I can't. I think maybe this is the first 2-person play that I've done, but it hasn't been the first one where we haven't taken an intermission. And so I think with pulling back from what we said earlier, with pacing and stuff in regards to the show, a lot of what we're saying is Spitfire going, but it's also monitoring, like when it is time that we can slow down and really take our time and think and listen and actively hear each other and then play off, because some nights they're totally different. Some nights Nadia will say something differently and that changes my reaction. And then it changes the dynamic and the feeling in the air, and so it's really beautiful in that moment because it's organic. And so when things like that are taking place in a 2-person show versus a 1-person show, you get a little bit more wiggle room with that, and you get a little bit more stage time.
For Christina especially, but the others have ideas as well. Why do you think Mary Wallace decided not to be friends anymore, not to train anymore?
Ooh, I feel like she did take a little bit a part of Athena's ferocity. She definitely learned within that little bit of the time spent within there to stand up for, because I feel like Mary Wallace was definitely one of those like wallflower in the beginning where she didn't want to step on people's toes, she didn't want to take up space, but at the end, you know, she really like, this gal blew it. She blew it big time, and really took my trust and threw it out the window, because we mentioned that halfway through the play, like, we need to make an agreement. You're not going to do this. You're going to treat me fairly. And that does break her trust. And at 17, you know, that is the end of the world. Fuck! Like, I lost my friend because you blew it. So, yeah, it is very much the end of the world.
But did Nadia really throw the match?
It came across that she was throwing the match.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I did throw the match. Yeah. If I wanted to win that, I totally could have.
She could have
It's interesting that you asked that question, because as I was sitting out there before this talkback, somebody we work with came up and they said, oh, it's such a great, she goes, I just wish they would have been friends. I was like, that, yes. It was, I'm sorry that it was like that. Yes, sir.
Question for Silas. Are there any left-hand fencers?
Yes, they actually have more of an advantage against any other right-handed people, because the left-handed, they fence right-handed people all the time, but right-handed people rarely fence left-handed, so it's like confusing. So
Back to Princess Bride.
yeah.
Come on.
More questions? Anybody more questions? Yes, sir.
Well, I just had an observation, and I wondered how much time was spent doing this or not. But fencing in itself is athletic. It's you know, it's very precise. But the athletes that do it, athletes carry themselves a certain way. There's a certain confidence in their movement, in their balance, in their stuff, and it's really highly toned in a fencing situation. But just the two of you, when you were working off each other, gave off an athletic vibe to it. And so, you know, and I don't know if that's intentional beyond learning defense and learning to deal with the moves involved, but just the, you know, the way you carried yours developed as it went, I felt. And you were there from the beginning where it was more confident movement as an athlete would. So I'm just curious as to how much of that was developed.
I definitely thought about it. Like, it was a conscious effort. I'm very lanky, I'm very gangly, I'm very like loosey all the time, and so anytime I'm on stage, I really do have to like think about my posture and think about how I stand. And so some of it was just me being like, I'm strong. Like, I'm gonna stand here like I'm really strong. And I think it has been working. You thought I looked like an athlete even when I tripped and fell tonight? You thought so?
I think another part of this process where we were learning the moves and the lunges and the stuff, for me specifically, I was really focused on, okay, I'm gonna learn this, and then it was like, okay, how do I make that human then? Like, those moments where you do rip off your mask, or the little beats in between where it's like, what do people do instead of just like, how does that translate into confidence, learning how to find confidence, and pulling in the human aspect with the screens, and that's other things that we really worked on and will continue to find.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean about that aura of confidence. Like, a lot of seasoned fencers have that, I don't know how to explain it, but they feel like confident.
Cocky.
Swagger.
Yeah, and then like at tournaments, like you can tell by watching if they're good or not.
I think it's an interesting question that you raised, because when they were talking about that, especially when Nadia says, you know, when I'm on stage, it's the kind of thing that all good actors have too. It's that you bring that thing, you bring it. It's I'm here and you bring it.
Well, it was hot. I remember when we first started doing the fencing, and like we were like taking videos to like watch at home, and I was like, oh man, we look bad at this. Like, we look like we've never held this sword before, and like we do not know what we're doing. And I really was like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, not only do I have to look like I know what I'm doing, but I also have to look like aggressive. I have to look really fast. I have to look really strong, really intimidating, and it was hard. It was really hard. It helps that you're so like petite and small, so I could just like stand by you and be like, I'm scared right now. So that was great casting.
We had more questions, but yes.
Will you ladies continue fencing?
No, these old knees of mine. No. They look like Don Rickles. Anyway, but that's a no for me.
Are there options in Dallas? Is there a fencing club for?
Yes, the one I go to,
It's for the youth.
it's called Globus. There's a few clubs. They're all local, so there's not much. There's no high school like teams or something, but yeah, there's some local clubs that you can Google and look into that might be nearby.
Are there teams for 30-year-olds?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of veteran. We call them veteran. But there's some classes. There's like for example, my club offers classes for that age.
70-year-olds.
Classes are 2 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Question for the actors. It seemed to me pretty quickly that all the pairing that was going on here wasn't with the swords. There was verbal and emotional all the time. You're pairing with words, you're pairing with emotions. Did you eventually feel that as you got into it? Because it never stops.
It doesn't, and you're like, I can't believe words are tumbling out of my mouth right now so quickly. I was like, humidifier. Trampoline! We sat down at a table reading and we were like, all of this is like a fight, like a little fairy.
Well, Gracie Gardner, I mean, there's not a ton of stage direction other than listing out like sort of what happens in the fights in this script, but she was really good at being like, pause, like that line hit. Like she'll tell you kind of, not all the time, but there were quite a few moments in there where it was like, oh, she just got her. Like that line, she got her, and now she's upset, look at that. Like, but it was very clear immediately, and I feel it every night. I'm like, oh, she got me. Don't talk about my dad.
We had a question over here. Somebody, yes. Oh, yes, ma'am. You right.
Me or somebody?
Yes, you. Right there. You.
Gotta have eyes back there. So there is so much dialogue going on, and I wonder, do you always know what you're saying?
I think what's really cool is when you start to really get into the play itself, and you get to drop in, and you don't have to be like, what's my next line? You really get to live and breathe in those characters, and so it just comes out, and so we're not thinking about what's tumbling out of our mouths, and it's just kind of living organically. There's some days, like yesterday, I'll let you know, I was on a little bit of an autopilot, and I went, oh, where's my brain at? And so sometimes you just have to rely on technique to get you through the thing, especially such a big project like this.
Character also. There's some lines that I have that I'm like, I don't know why she's saying that, but like I bet she doesn't know why she's saying it either. You know, like sometimes you just say things. Like sometimes you're just like trying to deflect, and you're like, whatever, I don't even care about that. So yeah, and you just keep going. And so I think having a strong relationship with you has been great, and a strong character and technique helps you. Because there's so many lines. There's so many lines, and some of them I look forward to saying every night, and some of them I'm like, well, I hope it lands good tonight. You know? So it just depends.
We had two. Go ahead, somebody.
Thank you, first of all.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. The fencing finish the sentence for me. Fencing is a metaphor for what as it pertains to this play?
Fencing is a matter for.
Metaphor.
Metaphor. See, it's that AARP club that I
You
used
see
to.
why I retired from this work. I can't articulate it any
It's a
longer.
metaphor. Steve?
I think that fencing is a metaphor for control a little bit. I think it's what really got me even when we started is how violent it is, but the grip is so soft. Like the way you hold the sword, it's like you kind of balance it in your fingers. Like it's being gentle and being aggressive at the same time. And so I think especially in the context of like teenage girls, like in adolescence, like it is learning to wield what is in you with care. Because like it can be very, very violent. It can also be very gentle. It's the same sword though. Yeah, I hate
that. Anybody else on that?
Nobody's gonna follow that.
I'm a tap out.
Get more questions. Any more questions?
Thank y'all.
Oh, one more. We were getting
Well, I got a few, but
just.
Robert Wynn, he composed all the photos in the background and brought that to the set.
He and Rob Menzel put that together. The projections, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, the projections. They're the ones who put that together. And then figure out, and it was basically, I don't know if you know anything about that, but it was like, hey, we need a young woman's bedroom, okay? And then they went through all the photos they could find, and this one looks okay. Oh, this one's not right. This one's still did the same thing. Oh, we need a hospital background. What do we do? Oh, okay. Let's find those, and then they just put them together and did their stuff with the aid of projections. Which is interesting because you see more and more of that now in theater than you ever did before. You know, that's the way things are going. Less sets and more projection.
And Nadia, did you injure your finger doing this?
I did. I did this overnight. Believe it or not, it's not broken. I went to the ER after we did our little champagne toast. It's just a bad bone bruise, but it bruised like immediately and it swole up, and I was like, oh no, like oh no, but it's all okay.
They listen. They have worked their butts off. Everybody involved in this production has worked so hard, and the dedication that they give. That they've given from the very beginning to every time they come out here is, you saw it this afternoon. It's nonstop. Before we go, I'd like to say a couple of what's up next for you, Lily?
I'm going to be in Casa Mañana's production of Cinderella.
What's up next for you, Nadia?
I'm gonna be in The Metamorphosis at Hip Pocket Theater, directed by yours truly. I'm not the bug, don't get too excited. She didn't cast me as the bug.
Say it, Christina.
I'm directing Metamorphosis.
Who wrote that show?
The Franz Kafka, and I adapted it.
Steve Woods, what's up next for you?
Constellations.
Yeah.
Steve is an instructor at SMU. If you didn't already know that, so. What is up next for you? You said again, Silas.
Tunisia.
And what's up next for me is I'll be here as usual. Hey, listen, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this matinee, and thank you for sitting here for the Talkback. Please tell your friends. Put it on your medias, the worldwide interwebs. Let everybody know about this show because it deserves to be seen. Once again, thank you, everybody.